Right now, 7 million people are walking around wearing hidden cameras on their faces, and the company that made them is sending your footage to workers in Kenya who watch you undress. That is not a conspiracy theory. That was reported 3 weeks ago, but it is only one layer of what I'm about to show you because I spent the last month mapping every way the technology industry is watching you. And what I found is that there is no longer a single space in your life that is free from surveillance. This is the end of privacy. It starts inside your home. In October 2025, a company called 1X Technologies opened pre-orders for the Neo.
My name is Bernd, and today we're launching Neo, our humanoid for the home.
A $20,000 humanoid robot designed to do your household chores. It stands 5 feet 6 inches tall, it has cameras where its eyes should be, and when the Wall Street Journal sent a reporter to test it, every single complex task that the robot performed was being controlled in real time by a stranger wearing a VR headset. A stranger who was looking through those camera eyes inside someone's home and watching them live. The company's CEO was remarkably candid about this. He told the Journal directly,
"In 2026, if you buy this product, it is because you're okay with that social contract. If we don't have your data, we can't make the product better."
So I'll decode that for you. The social contract that he is describing is this. You pay $20,000 for a machine, and anonymous employees of a technology company can see and hear everything inside your home through its cameras and its microphones. They say they'll blur your face. They say that you can set no-go zones like bedrooms and bathrooms where the robot won't enter under remote control.
Of course, make sure that we respect privacy as much as possible and that it's always on your terms. You are always in control. Some examples of this is Teleoperator does not see you, right? We can blur people. Teleoperator also cannot go into specific parts of your home where you set no-go zones. So that's enforced on the software level. So even if the teleoperator try, they cannot get the robot to go into those homes.
But a face blur doesn't hide your medical bills on the kitchen counter, it doesn't hide the divorce papers on the dining room table, and it doesn't hide the argument that you're having with your spouse when the operator logs in for a scheduled session. And the economics behind this are even worse. Industry analysis shows that while a remote operator in Palo Alto costs $9,000 a month, the same work can be done from India or the Philippines for $8 to $10 an hour. The robot in your living room is not just a product, it is a data harvesting platform designed to be piloted by low-wage workers in other countries, recording everything that it sees and feeding that footage into an AI training pipeline. One commenter on a viral TikTok reaction to the Neo launch summarized the absurdity perfectly. For $500 a month, you could just hire a cleaning service, a real human who knocks on your door whom you can see. Instead, you get an anonymous stranger peering through a robot's camera eyes, and that is just inside your home because the surveillance apparatus extends way beyond your front door. But the recording is only the first layer. In 2024, 2 Harvard University students demonstrated something that should have been front page news on every newspaper. They showed the footage from Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses could be connected to external facial recognition systems to identify complete strangers in public in real time. You're walking in a park with your children, a stranger looks at you, their glasses capture your face, a facial recognition algorithm matches your face to a database, and within seconds, that stranger knows your name, where you work, and potentially your home address. You have been identified, categorized, and logged. You did not consent, you were not notified, you had no idea it was happening. And now Meta wants to go further. Internal documents suggest the company plans to add facial recognition directly into the glasses software, a feature reportedly called name tag. In March 2026, 3 United States senators wrote directly to Mark Zuckerberg demanding answers. Their letter stated, "The deployment of facial recognition technology in smart glasses risks entrenching a system in which Americans are routinely scanned, cataloged, and analyzed as they move through daily life, an outcome fundamentally incompatible with democracy." And here is where the surveillance pipeline gets scary. A Swedish news investigation revealed that Meta routes user footage to Sama, a data annotation company based in Kenya, where workers spend their days watching intimate recordings captured by the smart glasses to train AI models. These workers describe viewing deeply personal content that would horrify the people who are being recorded. One worker described watching a man place his glasses on a bedside table and then witnessing his wife enter the room and undress. Others encountered credit card numbers, private medical information, and countless moments that would mortify their subjects if they knew strangers were watching. One worker said, "I don't think they know, because if they knew, they wouldn't be recording." 7 million pairs of glasses, each generating training data, each Hey Meta command routing footage through human eyes on 2 continents where workers labor for low wages under non-disclosure agreements and surveillance cameras. A tiny LED light on a fashionable frame signaling nothing interpretable to the people walking past connected a labor pipeline running from the Magnificent Mile to a Nairobi office where workers are fired for asking questions. That is not a privacy feature. That is a surveillance infrastructure disguised as a fashion accessory. The recording LED, a tiny white light that blinks when the glasses are capturing the video, is Meta's only concession to the privacy of the bystanders. And it has already been defeated. According to the AI incident database and multiple investigation reports, third parties are offering modifications that disable the LED light while the camera remains fully functional. You can pay someone to turn your smart glasses into a completely covert recording device. And even without that modification, the light is so small and it's so subtle that it is functionally useless in any real-world setting. In October 2025, the University of San Francisco issued a campus-wide warning after reports that a man wearing Meta glasses was approaching women and recording them without their knowledge. Public anonymity is dead. The ability to walk down a street without being recorded, identified, and fed into a corporate database is gone. And it was not taken from you by a government decree or a court order. It was taken from you by a fashion accessory that costs $300 and looks like a pair of sunglasses. So your home has a robot with cameras controlled by strangers. The sidewalk outside has 7 million pairs of covert recording glasses. And now I need to tell you about the device that you are most likely holding in your hand right now, the phone. The most intimate object that you own, the device that contains your text messages, your bank accounts, your photographs, your search history, your location data, and the private conversations you have with the people that you love. That phone is reading your screen. In February 2026, Samsung launched the Galaxy S26 series. Among its flagship features is something called Now Nudge. Samsung describes it as an intelligent assistant that provides real-time contextual suggestions during text conversation. If a friend asks you for photos from a recent trip, the phone automatically suggests relevant photos from your gallery without you needing to search for them. If you receive a message about a meeting, the phone checks your calendar and alerts you about conflicts. It sounds elegant and helpful, and it sounds like the future. But let's think about what has to happen technically for this feature to work. For your phone to suggest photos relevant to a text conversation, the phone must be reading that text conversation in real time, word for word. For your phone to recognize a meeting conflict, the phone must be parsing the semantic content of your messages and cross-referencing it with your calendar data in real time continuously. Your phone is not just a communication device anymore. It is an active reader of everything that appears on your screen. And here's where Samsung's marketing reveals a paradox so perfectly Orwellian that it deserves to be studied in university courses on propaganda. The Galaxy's S26 Ultra's other headline feature is called Privacy Display. This is a hardware-level technology. Samsung calls it Flex Magic Pixel. It uses 2 types of pixels, narrow and wide, to control the direction that light travels from the screen. So when privacy mode is active, the screen is unreadable from side angles, so a person sitting next to you on the subway, they can't see your text or your emails or your banking apps. Samsung has a built-in phone that prevents the person sitting next to you from reading your screen. It physically manipulates the photons leaving the display to ensure that no human bystander can see your private information. And simultaneously, Samsung has built a phone where their own AI reads every single word on that same screen in real time to generate suggestions. The privacy display does not protect you from Samsung. It protects Samsung's exclusive access to your data. It creates a walled garden around your screen where the only entity with permission to read your private communications is the manufacturer of the device. So the subway stranger is blocked, but the corporation that sold you the phone has an all-access pass. Samsung positions this as privacy enhancement, and on the surface it is. No one wants a stranger reading their messages over their shoulder, but the deeper implication is that privacy in Samsung's framework means privacy from everyone except Samsung. Your data is protected from other humans, it is not protected from the corporation. This is the fundamental inversion at the heart of modern consumer electronics. Privacy features are not designed to keep your data private, they are designed to ensure that only one entity, the manufacturer, has access to it. Now Nudge is marketed as a convenience. Privacy Display is marketed as protection. and together they form a closed system in which Samsung reads your screen so it can help you while simultaneously preventing anyone else from reading your screen so they can interfere with Samsung's monopoly on your data. And this is not limited to Samsung. Apple's on-device AI processes your emails, your messages, your photos. Every major smartphone manufacturer is building AI systems that require continuous access to everything on your screen. They cannot function otherwise. The AI that helps you is the AI that watches you. They are the same system. So the corporations are watching through your robot, through the glasses on a stranger's face, through the phone in your hand, but at least you might think your encrypted messages are safe. At least the conversations you have on Signal or WhatsApp or on iMessage, the ones protected by end-to-end encryption, at least those are private, right? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that this is under coordinated global attack, and the attackers are not hackers, they are governments. In April 2025, the European Commission published a strategy document called ProtectEU, and buried in the bureaucratic language was a plan. The Commission outlined a roadmap to enable lawful and effective access to data for law enforcement and a technology roadmap on encryption to develop methods for unlocking encrypted data by 2026. In plain language, the European Union is building a plan to crack end-to-end encryption. They are setting up a security research campus at their joint research center scheduled to begin work in 2026 and specifically tasked with finding ways to access encrypted communications. The EU's approach has evolved through multiple iterations. The most notorious was called chat control, a proposal that would have mandated that scanning of all messages on all services, including encrypted platforms like Signal and WhatsApp. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has fought this proposal since 2022. In November, the EU Council reached a position that removed the most extreme mandatory scanning requirements for encrypted services, but the EFF warned that the Council's version still laid the groundwork for mass surveillance in the future. It introduced voluntary scanning of non-encrypted messages, vaguely worded requirements, and that could mandate age verification and identity checks even on encrypted platforms, and a clause stating that the mandatory scanning requirements would be reconsidered every 3 years. The Malvad VPN team, a Swedish privacy-focused company that has tracked this legislation closely, was blunt in their assessment. They wrote that what the European Commission did was take chat control, and rather than fixing its fundamental flaws, it simply rebranded it under a new name. Instead of listening to criticism from experts and citizens, it chose to continue with propaganda. The old excuse about "what about the children" was expanded. Now terrorism, serious crime, and violent extremism were added as battering rams to push through mass surveillance. And the EU is not alone. The United Kingdom reportedly ordered Apple to backdoor its end-to-end encrypted iCloud backup. Apple's response was to disable its own security feature, advanced data protection for all UK users, rather than comply with a backdoor demand. In France, the National Assembly considered allowing ghost participants, law enforcement agents who would silently join encrypted chats without the participants' knowledge. The French legislature immediately rejected this proposal, but the fact that it was seriously considered by a major Western democracy tells you everything you need to know about the trajectory of this fight. Robin Wilton, a senior director at the Internet Society, warned that efforts to develop decryption techniques almost inevitably introduce new vulnerabilities that could be exploited by anyone with the motivation and the know-how. This is the fundamental technical reality that every government pushing for encryption backdoors either does not understand or does not care about. You cannot build a door that only good guys can walk through. A backdoor for the police is a backdoor for a hacker. A backdoor for intelligence agencies is a backdoor for a hostile foreign power. A backdoor for a democratic government is a backdoor for the authoritarian one. And 5 EU countries have already been caught using spyware to monitor political opponents. End-to-end encryption is the last wall. It is the final barrier between your private thoughts and total informational transparency. And it is being dismantled brick by brick by the very institutions that are supposed to protect your rights. Each company, each government, each institution pursued its own rational self-interest. Meta wanted engagement data. Samsung wanted AI features. 1X wanted training data. The EU wanted law enforcement access. And the sum of all these rational individual decisions is a surveillance apparatus that is more comprehensive than anything George Orwell could have imagined. Because Orwell imagined surveillance as something imposed from above. What we have built is a surveillance that we purchase, install, wear, and carry voluntarily. The philosopher Jeremy Bentham designed the Panopticon in 1791. It was a prison where a single guard could observe every inmate without the inmates knowing whether they were being watched at any given moment. The power of the Panopticon was not that every prisoner was watched all the time, it was that every prisoner could be watched at any time. The uncertainty itself was the mechanism of control. We have built a digital panopticon that surpasses Bentham's design in every dimension. It is not limited to a prison. It encompasses the entire physical world. It's not operated by a single guard. It is operated by every corporation, every government, and every stranger wearing a pair of smart glasses. And the inmates did not just enter the panopticon involuntarily. They paid for the privilege. They bought the robot. We bought the phone. We connected the thermostat. They accepted the terms of service. And now we have to live inside of a structure of total observation from which there is no obvious exit, unless you know where to find one. Everything I have described to you, the robot, the glasses, the phone, the encryption attacks, it rests on a single technological foundation: machine learning. Every surveillance system, every tracking algorithm, every facial recognition engine, every AI assistant that reads your screen, they all function because they were trained on data, massive quantities of data, billions of images, trillions of text tokens. And the dirty secret of this entire edifice is the vulnerability that the technology industry desperately does not want you to understand. It's that these systems cannot distinguish truth from sophisticated noise. The technical term is data poisoning, and it is, I believe, the most important concept in digital self-defense today. And here's how it works. A machine learning model learns by processing enormous data sets and identifying statistical regularities, patterns from that data. It does not understand what it is looking at. It does not comprehend meaning. It identifies correlations. So if you show it 10 million pictures of cats, it learns the statistical pattern that constitutes catness. And if you can introduce enough corrupted examples into that data set, examples that look legitimate to a human reviewer but contain subtle alterations, you can bend how the entire model behaves. So researchers from Zurich, Google, NVIDIA, and Robust Intelligence demonstrated that you could have poisoned 0.01% of the research databases, the largest image data sets used to train AI models, for just $60. $60, that is less than a monthly internet bill, and 0.01% sounds negligible, but research shows that a poisoning rate as low as 0.001% is effective at altering model behavior. A landmark study published in 2025 by researchers at Anthropic documents that compromising 0.00016% of the total training data was enough to reliably install a backdoor in a massive language model. So 250 documents out of millions, and the backdoor survived training and was functional in the deployed model. In medical AI, researchers demonstrated that poisoning just 0.001% of training data with fake medical articles led to a nearly 5% increase in harmful medical advice from the model. 15 clinicians were asked to distinguish between the poisoned and the clean model outputs. They could not tell the difference. The poisoned models looked and sounded exactly like the clean one, except it was giving people dangerous medical information. Now, I want to understand what this means. And for the person who feels powerless against the panopticon, for the person who believes that they cannot fight back against trillion-dollar corporations with armies of AI engineers, data poisoning is an asymmetric weapon. The surveillance systems that track you, the facial recognition algorithms, the behavioral prediction engines, the ad targeting systems, the risk scoring models, they all depend on accurate data. They depend on your data being real, your browsing history being genuine, your location data reflecting where you actually go, your purchasing patterns reflecting what you actually want. If you can inject plausible noise into those data streams, if you can feed the machine contradictory signals, false patterns, believable but fictitious behavioral data, you can dissolve the algorithmic confidence that makes surveillance profitable. There's a tool called Nightshade that was developed by researchers at the University of Chicago, and it adds an invisible alteration to images before you upload them online. These alterations are imperceptible to the human eye, but they cause dramatic, unpredictable changes in AI model behavior when the images are scraped and used for training. Fewer than 100 poisoned image can corrupt an entire prompt category. And the tool has a bleed-through effect, degrading the model's performance on similar related categories as well. So here's how you weaponize this in your daily life. And I'm not suggesting anything illegal. I'm not suggesting that you hack anybody's system. I am suggesting a philosophy of strategic digital noise. Use browser extensions that generate random search queries and page visits in the background, diluting your real browsing profile with fictitious data. Use multiple loyalty cards under different names at different stores, distributing your purchasing pattern across multiple profiles so no single entity has a complete picture. Use ad blockers that not only block ads but inject false click signals. Vary your routines. Use cache for purchases you want to keep private. Use VPNs that rotate your apparent location. Send your data profile in 10 different directions at once. The surveillance economy is built on the assumption that your data is clean, that your behavioral signals are genuine, that your profile they have built on you is accurate. The moment that assumption breaks, the moment the algorithms can no longer trust that you are who your data says you are, the entire economic model of behavioral prediction collapses. Not for the system as a whole, but for you. Your profile becomes noise, your risk score becomes unreliable, your targeting parameters become incoherent, and you become, for all practical purposes, invisible to the machine. This is not theoretical, this is the same principle that intelligence agencies use in counterintelligence operations. You do not defeat a surveillance system by hiding from it. You defeat it by drowning it in noise, by making the signal-to-noise ratio so unfavorable that the system can no longer extract meaningful intelligence from the data it collects. The military calls this preparation of the environment. I call it digital self-defense. And the beauty of data poisoning as a defense strategy is that it scales inversely to the surveillance system's power. The bigger the data set, the harder it is to detect and remove poison entries. So the more automated the scraping, the more vulnerable it is to the injected noise. The more a system relies on behavioral prediction, the more catastrophically it fails when those predictions are based on corrupted endpoints. The Panopticon's greatest strength is its massive, indiscriminate data collection. It is also its greatest weakness because it collects everything, including the noise you give it. You have the right to be unseen, you have the right to walk down the street without being identified, and you have the right to have a conversation without a corporation listening. You have the right to exist in your own home without a stranger looking through a robot's eyes. These rights were not given to you by a technology company. They cannot be taken from you by a software update. They are yours. They have always been yours. And the only person who can surrender them is you, because the Panopticon has a door and it has always been unlocked. You just have to decide to walk through it.